And for Off the Block, I'm Vinny Lopes, and we are now joined by Ball State men's volleyball head coach Joel Walton. And Coach, it's been a little bit of a wild run for your team in the last couple days, heading into your big rivalry match against IPFW on Thursday. But talk about your team's performance in the last couple of matches, winning some decisive 5-game matches in some pretty clutch forms.
I don't know, Vinny. If you win in 5, can you call it winning decisively?
That's true, Coach.
We did win some matches, and we won against McKendree and Ohio State on the road. And anytime you get a road win, especially against a conference opponent, that's a great thing, and it helps you as you're working toward obtaining the highest possible seed into your conference tournament at the end of the year.
Yeah, Coach, take me back a little bit to Saturday night. You're playing Ohio State. You're down 0-2. What was the turning point, did you feel, in that match for you guys to be able to get that comeback win on the road?
Well, after games 1 and 2, our team had played about as poorly as we could play. Ohio State was really controlling the match with their serving pressure that they were putting on us. We weren't doing much defensively with our serve and our ability to block or dig. We came out after the break and tried a different set of people on the court. We put Adam Wetzel in for Edgardo Cartagena as our libero. We brought in Tony Liebrich for Alex Pia in the middle. And I think there was one more change, and I believe it might have been getting Marty Nimshevsky in there for Brendan Serain. But the personnel group that we had in games 3, 4, and 5 got out and competed very well. We fought through a really close battle in the third game, and then finally at least put a game win up on the scoreboard for our team. Game 4, we got in a good blocking rhythm, good defensive rhythm, and really controlled that game with our block, and then got into a very tight fifth game again, and that game was back and forth. Ohio State had some match point opportunities, we had some match point opportunities, and then we were finally able to win at 18-16. So what turned it around, I'm not really sure, and that's kind of the thing with this year's team. We've won matches with different groups of personnel out on the court. One thing we're learning is we've got a lot of different guys who can step on the court and play and contribute to our team winning matches. We just don't know who to start and who are going to finish each night. Sometimes we've got to look through our bench before we find the right combination of players against a specific opponent.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask you about that because, you got a big match coming up against IPFW. When you're in a situation like you were on Saturday where you seem to have that right combination for that night, is that the combination or starting lineup that you tend to lean towards, or is it kind of a day-by-day you decide based on how everything's looking in practice leading up to it?
Well, Vinny, the starting point is always going to be which of your players finished the previous match, especially if you won. And you're going to look at those guys and see if that's going to be, for whatever reason, the right group to start when you get to the next match. Practice, of course, is always going to be something that we're evaluating, and effort in practice or performance in practice. Sometimes it's even just the health that the players have as they're going through the week's practice and preparing for your next matches. My staff and myself, Coach Furnish, Coach Paulonis, we are spending a lot of time discussing who each of us feel our starters should be, and it's not a very easy formula or equation to come up with. Our discussions are typically very in-depth. There's a lot of different viewpoints that each of our staff is putting forward, and eventually I get to make the call at the end of the discussion. And obviously, to this point in the season, we haven't been great at figuring out who should be on the court in games 1 and 2, but at least we're finding a good group to go out and compete in games 3, 4, and 5.
Well, and Coach, looking at the other side of the net, the team that you're going to be going up against, IPFW, I'm sure that you've been able to see a little bit of film on them this season. What have you seen in your studying of this team so far this season?
I think IPFW is playing really well this season, and if there's one thing they're doing extremely well, it's competing. They graduated a number of players from last year's team, 2 starting middles, starting left side, starting center, and they're playing with a lot of new people out representing their program this season, and those kids, I think, are performing very well. They're losing some matches, but they're in most of the games, and they're not backing down from anybody. And along with that, Andy Sullen, who is a very top-notch right-side attacker, is putting up big numbers for them in many matches, and you've got to be ready to hopefully slow him down. You're not going to stop him because he's too good a player. Then the other wild card with IPFW right now is kind of similar to us. They're playing a number of different players, so we're not exactly sure what personnel set they're going to be on the court. And on top of that, the even bigger wild card is Harthaler, one of their really good players from last season, hasn't played that much this year, and I think it's been primarily because of an injury. So you just don't know, because we're not with them in practice every day. We don't know what they're going through each week. Harthaler could appear or reappear at any moment, and if he does, he could be a big catalyst for that team playing even better than they already have this season.
And now, Coach, you've been involved in this rivalry for a while, dating back to your playing days in the 80s. But is it going to be weird at all for you to look on the other side of the net and not see Arnie Ball there on the sidelines?
Arnie Ball is IPFW volleyball, and it is going to be very different. And another part of the rivalry that our program has had with IPFW stems from the fact that Arnie was a Ball State grad, and he worked so hard for many years to build up that IPFW program to the point that they were highly competitive not only with Ball State, but with everybody else in the country. So yeah, it's going to seem a little bit different without him over there. Our staff has a good working relationship with Ryan Perrott and his assistant coach, JW, and so we still have friends and rivals over on that other bench, but it is going to present a very different feeling without Coach Ball over there, and without the incredible tenacity and diversity of things that Coach Ball could throw at you through the course of a match, whether it be the game plan that he had put together for his team or his way to try to influence officials at certain points of matches, in matches as well.
Yep. And I do want to ask you about just the rivalry as a whole. I know in my time being able to spend up at Fort Wayne covering the team, for so many IPFW players, this is the game, playing Ball State. It's the one that they circle on their calendar. How do you, as a coach, kind of talk to your team, knowing that the other team that you're going to be facing, you guys are going to be fired up, but the opponent is going to be just as fired up? How do you handle that emotion with your players?
Well, it's important that the guys understand going in, there's going to be a certain amount of emotion within the match, and you have to be prepared for the other team to play very aggressively towards you, for there to maybe even be some talking going on between the net, and just a passion coming out of players as they make good plays and as they attempt to build momentum and take control of the match. You don't want to get overrun by that steamroller going down the road, and you've got to be able to match that passion and that energy on our side of the net that we expect Fort Wayne to have on their side. So that's something that we've talked about this week. It's something that our returning players understand. They've experienced it before, and hopefully they will do a good job communicating that to our newer players who are stepping into significant roles for our team this season.
Yeah. And, Coach, you kind of talked about a little bit earlier, obviously you're having lots of new faces in the lineup. Who has been the one player, though, that has most positively surprised you so far this season?
Vinny, that's really difficult because at times a number of players have put in very solid performances. And I'm not sure that I would characterize any of those performances as surprises. I think Mike Scannell at times has played very well for us this season, and we've known that he has that ability, and we're pleased to see him putting in performances like he did against Ohio State. Brendan Terrain playing at the right side as a freshman as a middle last year, now playing as either a right or a left for our team this season, has had a number of matches where he's been our top kill getter, or he's been a blocker that has limited another team's attacker that he's facing across the net. So both of those guys have done some good things. Alex Pia, I feel, has done some very good things in a variety of matches, both offensively and defensively. And then Tony Liebrick came into the Ohio State match and in 3 games finished with 9 blocks. So there's a lot of different guys, and if there was one that I would categorize as the biggest surprise, or maybe a person who I'm proud of at this moment in the season. It would be Parker Swartz, because Parker, as a freshman, through his ability to serve at a very high level and because of a good volleyball IQ, his ability to ball control and do other things on the court, we've had to create a role to get him on the court as much as possible, even though I wouldn't categorize him as a starting middle for our team. Parker's role is really expanding as a serving substitute, but one that can also play in the middle as needed through the course of a match. So that's my best answer to who is the most surprising on our team this season.
Right. And, Coach, final question for you. I'll let you go on this. Obviously, you're coming off some big wins. You have a big homestand coming up. Can you just kind of describe maybe the buzz or excitement around this team on the Ball State campus this week as you guys get ready for some of your big matches?
Well, Vinny, it's been a nice week because people are asking for interviews, yourself included. And, we finished practice one day this week, and we had somebody from the campus newspaper, Joel Walton, from our communications office, and then people from the Sports Link program here on campus. We had 3 different sets of people who were asking for interviews of myself and then the players following practice. So there is some buzz that's going on, and people are aware that our team is performing well. It was also nice this week. I wasn't aware that our volleyball match against Ohio State was going to be broadcast on the Big Ten Network, but to have some people call me and say, "Hey, you guys are playing against Ohio State on Tuesday," and all of a sudden I'm watching that match and recording that match on the Big Ten Network. So not only did we beat Ohio State, but that got put out in a way that a number of other people across the country were able to share in that moment along with us. So it does feel like we have some momentum. People are aware of that. I'm very excited to be playing at home these next 3 weekends and have a good Ball State and Muncie community crowd in Northern Arena supporting our team.